We now listen to Taku Uchiyama from Georg-August-University. The title of his presentation will be Knowing How to Use Oneself as a Part of Hybrid Proper Name. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So I changed a little title. From that title, you can see now on the paper, on the pamphlet. Sorry about it. So I changed a little bit my thought. And I'm afraid a little bit, not so much something to do with dynamics, but still, okay. So I hope it is touch and some ideas about this workshop and also following a workshop. So let's start. So here's introduction. So my original concern is the controversy over the distinctness of indexicality. So the question is, does indexicality play an essentially distinctive role in thought? Also, I think you know it is familiar, this discussion first as Perry and Lewis, and then after this Kaplan and Daver, as they said, they argued it is nothing actually philosophically interesting, nothing distinct of indexicals. Also, that is what I mean with this controversy. So the question is, if the indexicality play an essentially distinctive role, and also in thought, of course they are in a sense different. Also, they must be different, but the question is essentially distinctive. And also the discussion is going on in the thought, as philosophy of thought. And there are two camps. I already mentioned it. One camp says exceptionalist, and they said, yes, it does. And skeptics like Kaplan and Daver, no, it only indicates one class of intentional attitude among others. So they are different, but not essentially different. And my position, among many, is, or my first reply or reaction would be, how can it not be essentially distinctive? Also, it does point to something philosophically deep, but it is hard to cash out what it is actually, but this something special. So as a first approximation, also I would say there are two reasons for that. The first reason is, so any attempt to pin down such a feature results in objectifying indexical thoughts detaching from the subjects now and here. So we must talk about or represent it, and somehow it detached from the original nature. But if one tries to characterize indexical thought without detachment from now and here, the resulting feature is not one of indexicality, but the problem of, or the feature of self-reference. So it's self-reference and indexicality, they are related, but not identical. So somehow it's also lose the problem, get lost from problem, original problem. So we can call it a kind of dilemma. And I'm trying to find out if there is some way out. So the goal of today's talk, is to show an alternative way to explain why indexicals are distinctive. And actually, it's my original concern. So to cash out my first impression must be something distinctive of indexicality. So here's an overview, table of contents. So first, I identify the target class, also what it is actually, this indexical belief. So then after that, I introduce, a brief introduction of the controversy of indexicals, what is actually at issue, and where shall we look for the essential distinctness. My answer is in the indexical puzzle, something distinguished, as they're related but distinguished from Frege's puzzle. And there are some studies, research about it recently, and there, also, as I understood, there are 2 attempts to identify this distinctiveness in the Frege pattern, no, in Indexical pattern. The first one is unshareability, and the second is unscrutability. Also, I don't know if it's the right word, but I call it not scrutable. And yeah, I think the first unshareability is, I agree, there the 2 features are basically right, correct. But the first one is incomplete, and the second one is complete, but something is still missing. So I will show it in the talk. And the missing point with a second feature is it doesn't make it clear that it's not the problem of self-reference. And so I try to do it. So it is not so. It is, or put it differently. So it is a problem of self-reference, but I try to demonstrate the problem of self-reference is essentially indexical. So in the end, it's actually the problem of indexical. But by doing that, I admit the circular explanation as viable, and I somehow endorse or advocate externalisms. And so in the end, essentiality in the indexicals is interpreted as an inevitable circularity. It is also one instance of inevitable circularity. So here I actually lose the point. Also, I actually that's okay that there's no distinctive feature of indexicality. I capture it. I surrender, but in the end, that's this move to the externalisms, it still leaves something out. So what is left out with indexicality, and that point will be made clear by the so-called vertiginous question. And it leads me to the idea of the hybrid proper name. And it is also the direction which shows maybe that makes indexical something distinctive. And the nature of the hybrid proper names is also technical, or how it is structured, how it's characterized. It's not so much elaborated, but I hope it's at least it shows some direction how indexicals could be distinctive. Okay, done. Let's start. Okay, the first I identify, although I propose what is indexical belief or what I mean with it, how to identify. I identified just quite roughly, so identification by heuristic method, observing some clear cases, and ostensibly pointing to belief in question, and as Perry's and other thinkers did. For example, the Messi shopper, I didn't quote his example, as, but I guess also it is familiar already. So it is also clear case where we canonically use indexicals to characterize people's mental states or intentional attitude, and that is also something uncontroversial. There is such a case where we use indexicals and it cannot be replaceable. And it is a theory-neutral identification of indexical beliefs, though that cannot be expressed without using indexicals. And it doesn't say anything about the nature of intentional states. So it's just quite to grip on to make the clear what is our target of inquiry. Okay, it's still sufficient to set up the inquiry. Okay. So that is what I mean with indexical belief. The question is now, are they essential distinctive? But these questions can be analyzed in two. I'm drawing on Magidor. The first question is, do indexical beliefs display some essentially distinctive feature, special attitude? The second one is, do indexical beliefs pose a distinctive problem to the traditional way of understanding belief, special challenge? I didn't elaborate here what is a traditional way of understanding beliefs. It comes later. But I mean, this doctrine of proposition, as what Perry put it in his paper. And original argument for the distinctiveness are focused on second question. It is why the problem of the essential indexical. And so there are also many studies to each questions, but I think they are different but inseparable questions. Different, why? So yes to 1 doesn't necessarily enter yes to 2. Also, second question. So for example, irreducibility of indexicals in action explanation doesn't force us to reconsider how our belief states or belief contents must be characterized. Also, what must be explained there is just immediate relevance to the action of indexicality, but it does not automatically necessitate to reconsider the content of indexical attitude. So, but this question, the first question, it was still important, so inseparable, because the first question, or the answer to the first question decides how beliefs need to be understood in second question. So the first question must be some point to some feature which necessitate to characterize or reconsider our way of understanding our belief. And not, I don't think it is not necessary with, for example, action explanation. Then the question is, what else, special attitude and special challenge, where the formal requires to specify the individual, indexical nature of belief. And my answer is, or my hypothesis is, in the indexical puzzle. And here we must need to specify the indexical nature, or we must suppose some indexical nature of belief. So, okay. So what I mean, so actually this indexical puzzle is, this like what we see in the messy shopper example. So I am making a mess, and the philosopher in the shop is making a mess. The referentially equivalent, but there are two modes of presentation, so to say. And okay, then there is where we discuss. Then what is, if any, the essentially distinctive feature in the indexical puzzle? Is there such a thing at all first? We must ask. For example, a non-indexical counterpart to the messy shopper, also messy Superman. It is not so familiar as the messy shopper case. So here I quote it. Also it's also from Kaplan-Daver. It's just replaced character is not thinking about oneself, but thinking about third person here, Superman. As Superman is making a mess, and Clark Kent is Superman. So Clark Kent is making a mess. It's quite classic, actually, structure of Frege puzzle, but it is just counterpart to messy Indexical puzzle. So if we observe such a case, then we somehow wonder, is there such a thing at all? What is the difference? What is essentially different from, between those two cases? So now, but Kaplan-Dever, in his argument, so if we claim there is something special, then we must think as follows: as a motivation distinctiveness. So there are reasons for thinking that indexicals interact with opaque context in ways that are unique to indexicals, which can't be replicated for non-indexical expressions. But we saw already in the messy Superman case, it's quite replicable, also we can replicate it. So then what else? Also, what can it be, this difference, distinctiveness? So some unique kind of opacity distinct from that created by non-indexical intentional attitude, what it could be. It's actually difficult to imagine what could be there is difference. What kind of difference could be there? Okay, we just understand opacity is just opacity. Also difficult to imagine different kind of opacity, but it is what is required if we want to show that there is something special with indexicality in indexical puzzle. So one reply, or the first thought, maybe opacity distinguished by context sensitivity, but it cannot be such opacity because it is analyzable by non-indexical terms by appealing to particular Kaplanian character, for example, it actually, namely non-constant function. Yeah, it is. Actually, also, it's not just. Yeah, this is the first. Maybe one reason. Also, we can analyze it in terms of with non-indexical terms, as Kaplanian character states. But also, it is still opacity. It's just one instance of opacity. As other phenomenon is same opacity. So this is a challenge for exceptionalists. What is a unique kind of opacity that requires specifying the indexical nature of belief? So recently, there are some studies on it, research on it, and as I see, there are two approaches. The both are from Toll and Weber. The first attempt is unshareability. It could be the feature, this distinctive feature of indexical puzzle. Yeah, also they argue, also first we compare the messy Superman and messy Chopper. What Clark Kent Superman disbelieves or beliefs or disbeliefs. Also the two thought the Clark Kent is making a mess and Superman is making a mess. And at first, they believed the first one, and after that, they recognized, yeah, Superman is making a mess. And in compared to that, what the message of disbeliefs and beliefs is that the shopper with the tone back is making a mess, and I making a mess. Also, sorry, also the last one is I making a mess, or Superman is making a mess. They disbelieved first, but after that they believed. And okay, those two pair of thoughts or beliefs, so anyone can share the former pair, but not the latter. The Frege puzzle is shareable, while the Indexical puzzle isn't. So if we talk about opacity, then we can say maybe there is unshareable opacity. Somehow, I'm not so convinced with this term, but we can maybe characterize in such a way. Is that then distinctive feature? Here we can raise three questions. First, are indexical beliefs are really unshareable? Maybe it's not so clear actually. Maybe it's also here is a dynamic belief of dynamics. Dynamics belief. Maybe we can share. We think if we think about this bear attack case. I'm about to be attacked by bear, and you are about to be. I'm being chased by bear, and you are about be chased by bear, whatever. And in such a context, maybe we can say, we share the beliefs. So it is questionable, not so completely clear. And even if, a second question, even if unshareable, does it pose a distinctive problem for the doctrine? So if it is unshareable, sorry, I will start a little bit here. Yeah, as Evans demonstrated, we can, as he explained, how we can keep track of, we can keep one way of thinking through the context, and still it is somehow compatible with Frege's framework. So it is not so also 100% clear if it is if it gives rise to the question to the doctrinal proposition. And third question is even if problem, there is problem, is that caused by essential indexicality? And my focus is on that question, third question. Isn't it a matter of actually context sensitivity? And if so, it doesn't necessarily require specifying the indexical nature of belief. So it is still a matter of context sensitivity. Maybe it's already clear, but I elaborate a little bit how why it is just a matter of or why we can understand it as a matter of context sensitivity. So we imagine the world through God's eye, so to say. I'm drawing on the Nagel's the view from nowhere. It is a view from no particular perspective, and complete all the facts about the world concept as it is in itself, including each individual perspective on the world, no conceptual room for the subject's privilege now and here, unshareability. Suppose given such a world, unshareability fully analyzed by non-indexical terms. Perspectives. Each person's perspective is also represented in such a world, but is also presented in the third-person way. It's also just so, like, again, Capellan's function, Capellan's character, non-constant function. We can analyze the difference in the unshareability phenomenon. So I would say the first attempt fails, but not completely. So that is it is just incomplete. I think what they want to actually say, the scholars like Toll and Weber, is the special status of the subject's view being unrepresentable in the non-perspectival world must be made explicit. So, I mean, this is something, the special status of the subject's view, I mean, with this subject privilege now and here, it's something what cannot be represented in such a third person or non-perspectival world. There is no conceptual room for that. And that, such a privileged viewpoint is actually not shareable. But that point is not made explicit, so it is why it is incomplete. The second attempt is inscrutability, drawing on Chalmers' work. And here, argument is as follows. Two different kinds of ignorance indicated by two different kinds of resolution. Ignorance featured in Frege puzzle as like Hesperus Philosophers co-reference is scrutable from the information of the world conceived as it is in itself. So we are still, I am still using that non-perspectival picture of the world. But ignorance featured in the Indexical puzzle, the Chopper-Me co-reference, is not scrutable because the world does not have room for the privileged Tao and me. So here we can maybe say there are two different kinds of opacity. So I'm not satisfied with this naming, but one opacity is intra-world opacity caused by the reference different representation, which all can be put into the non-perspectival world picture. And another opacity is trans-world opacity caused by two different groups of representation, one that can be accommodated into the non-perspectival world picture, and the other that cannot. So, but I just want to make note, here is no implication to some ontologically distinctive viewpoint. It's just two essentially distinctive way of thinking about things, about the world, about oneself. So maybe the special status of subject view being unrepresentable in the non-perspectival world is made explicit. So in this inscrutability approach. So it can be no longer be considered an instance of a context-sensitive attitude. So maybe we can have the right feature indicating the essentially indexical nature of belief. But here is the objection. So isn't inscrutability a feature of problem of self-reference? So as inscrutability, as I mentioned it, is in nutshell is like that problem. So an apparent impossibility to represent the subject's view in the world represented by that view. And the problem of self-reference in this context, as maybe there are many meaning or many interpretations of the problem, but here in this context, I understood the problem with self-reference as follows: the problem of integrating a representing medium into a picture represented by the very medium, as like Esch's picture, also for this workshop vividly depicts. So actually, this inscrutability is the problem of sensibility, self-reference. So, but then the problem of self-reference is not necessarily essential nature. So it can be presented from the external position by non-indexical terms from nowhere. So we can describe, we can depict so Escher looking at Escher himself like that. So we can this self-reference phenomenon describe from outside, from nowhere. So it is not necessary for Escher himself. Actually, he used Indexical. So I'm looking at myself, looking at myself. So it's some kind of infinite regress, but it's not necessary to take that position. So the problem, but not distinct of indexicality. So here's possible reply to such an objection, and maybe also here some replies other than this. But one strong objection reply would be the problem of self-reflection is a problem of indexicality. How can the former, for that we can think the solution to that self-reference problem. The general strategy is distinguish the content of representation from the particular means used to express the content. But once distinguished, how are they connected? If not at the level of content, then where else their connection? So this connection between means and content must be somewhere found. Otherwise, we cannot explain self-reference. So here is a suggestion. Maybe the connection cannot be explained without indexical. That would be reveal the essential indexical nature of the problem. Then skeptics said, okay, then please show me that if it's the case, my hypothesis, Perry's and Lewis' alternative theory suggests the indexical approach to the connection between the content of representation and its means. Of course, they don't mention self-reference as far as I know, but we can understand their theory, use their theory. Here I interpret Perry's theory. Here's his strategy in nutshell. So the doctrinal propositions. So here I explain it. 3 tenets are binary and absoluteness and fine-grainedness according to cognitive significance. Perry's suggestion is revise tenet 1. The propositional attitude is a ternary relation between the subject belief state and the proposition. And belief states explain the cognitive significance while propositions explain absolute truth. Indexes are essential for characterize the belief states of indexical belief, not their content. And maybe skeptics object to such a strategy. First, are indexes really irreducible? Second, even if irreducible, so are not non-indexical terms either. So to second question, there is still significant difference. Non-indexical terms can be integrated in the content while indexical cannot. And even if the former cannot either, belief states characterized by them can be represented in the word concept as it is itself. Not so with the latter indexicals. Of course, if we put in its word in as it is, then it loses this indexicality. It becomes again this just matter of context sensitivity. So the answer to 1 is also it means already automatic is clear. They cannot be replaced by non-indexical terms. So indexicality belief. Indexicality essentially belong to belief states, the means of representation, never to content. Essentially, indexicality ways of thinking as a solution to the problem. So I use this approach to interpret the solution as a solution to the self-reference. There are 2 ways of thinking of the world. One from now and here, the other from nowhere. But both can be self-ascribed in virtue of its essential indexical character. Its interpreted instantiation puts one in the position to self-ascribe that thinking, to know that oneself, the subject representing the centralist world, on the other hand, is the one viewing the world from a particular viewpoint, represented in the world on the other hand. So in this way, linking the means and content succeed without representing the former and putting it into the latter, evading an infinite regress. So the solution is essentially indexical, so it's a problem, so is also problem. But how can it be the solution? We used already the self-ascription to explain self-reference. Is somehow circular. We suppose something what we actually want to explain. And here is also two questions. First, is it inevitable, this circularity? And second question is it fatal circularity? The first one, I would say, a means, yes, it is. Means reveals itself as a means only by being used, if I put a little bit generally. So the question what justifies a use self-ascription is misleading because there is known in the words as it is in itself, at least. So justification ground we put in the word, it is again just a matter of context sensitivity. There's no essential indexicality, so we cannot find such a justification ground for self-ascription. So rather, we should look at how our use of indexicals in self-ascription is approved or disapproved by each other. So I'm here appealing to Kripke's solution to the rule-following paradox. And then answer to the second question is no, it's not fatal. It's not, though it's not justification, but we can clarify how it works. Our self-ascription, no justification ground, but still it's warranted. So, but corollary is we must take a specific form externalism. I mean, this Kripkean way of justify or make sense with this use of indexicals in self-ascription. But it is here objection. Again, Nagel, philosophical thought, what we expressed by I am X or today is Monday, blah, blah, blah. How can it not be a substantial knowledge or significant fact? What my intuition said? It's something really philosophical depth. It's not something to do with, something can be fully explained by this such an externalistic move. So that can only be grasped by indexical concept directly without any aid of some properties in virtue of which one fixes a reference. So it's like an indexical concept is like a concept of pain, we can somehow grasp directly. That essence is not like a concept of heat. And so here then one is 10. It leads to the idea indexical transparent concept. It is a transparent concept, and then like indexical fact or property dualism. I don't know whether there are people who think in that way or not, but my reply to that is not because such a way of thinking is somehow other way around. We should think other way around. Not because it is essential indexical fact property, one can grasp it only using indexical, rather because their use cannot be explained without using indexicals themselves. It seems as if they would express as essential indexical fact property. So then it is already clear. It is like essential indexicality is just one instance of instance of this inevitable circularity. All that shows is only shows that some notions cannot be accounted for without using the very notions. The indexical use case is surely a paradigm case, but not only the case, like a meaning of non-indexical words or concept. Also, it's necessary, inevitable, circular. And those are, it's just, this circular comes out always where means are meant to be clarified in their use. Index are such means among others. So exceptionalist refuted. So I'm afraid this time is already running, but already I'm already in the end. There is one concern or one final question, the vertiginous question. Vertiginous question is why of all the subjects of experience out there, this one and the one corresponding to the human being referred to as XYZ. Here we must replace our own name. Is the one whose experience are live. Actually, there are two steps. Actually, this question must be analyzed in two steps. The first step is self-identification with a particular point of view, as this particular point of view, and corresponding question is why this point of view. The second step is identification of that point of view with someone, particular person, individual. Why that individual? And the second step succeeds through empirical investigation. Also, we just know, if we know sufficiently about the world, we can find out where, also, whose perspective it is, this perspective. So it is answerable on the empirical ground. The first step succeeds just by thinking of oneself in an essential indexical way. So no identification procedure that could justify self-identification. So the question is hard to answer, hence spread vertiginous question. So my suggestion against externalism, don't look for some justification ground, but look at our use of indexicals in the self-identification, and or when we disapprove such use by each case, etc. But still, people feel something left out. It's namely, then okay, also, but why this self-ascription? Why this particular use of indexical means? Okay, maybe I can just explain this use by using this very indexical notion, indexical means, and it makes me somehow or fool me something that there is some distinctive subjective fact that I can only grasp with indexical in virtue of indexical words. But okay, but then why this fact, why this use is that what fools me, or which tricks me to or give me such a illusion? And my reply for that is because you are inseparable part of that use. And here comes the idea is that me and this use is inseparable. So here comes the idea is a hybrid proper name, and maybe time is already running. So and I think the people after me is already also talk about hybrid proper name. So I don't introduce the idea, but so it is a direction where I actually want to go. Conclusion as a own conclusion. Maybe it is difficult to find out this distinctiveness. It is somehow reduced to the problem of self-reference, or reduced to the inevitable circularity. But the final question is this vertiginous question, and it motivates us to think about indexicals, something special, something distinct, in the way that we should understand other hybrid proper names. Of course, there are also hybrid proper names comes also in another fields also. Also, it is idea is self-quoting, as is also phenomenal concept, and the discussion about phenomenal concept. Here also comes this self-quoting idea. So I don't I think I'm not sure it is completely original, distinctive of indexicals, but still, I think there are some hope to elaborate this idea regarding indexicals and make it something special about it. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.